Hi, you're listening to the live blab version of the App Business Podcast, talking mobile app business news, mobile marketing, publishing, mobile app stuff for the week of, what would this be, December 11th? The week ending December 11th. It's the Friday. My name's Chris G. That's Andrew Hubbard. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, I think we mentioned this on the last blab. We were going to just limit it over the holiday period to just these weekly news updates. So just reminding everyone who's listening right now. But we got a lot to talk about. Where do you want to start?
All right, let's start with, so I've lost video for you. This is going to sound funny for the people listening to the podcast, but we have live video in the blab. But yeah, for some reason I've just lost Chris on the video, so he's just audio. Hopefully we can get that sorted.
Can you hear me?
Let's start the news. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's start with a quick one from Mashable that just came out yesterday. Apple named their best iOS apps of 2015. So they named, Apple's best apps, their editorial picks, and then they also released the top lists of the most downloaded apps across the store as well. So the top app named by Apple was Periscope. So even though, what was the other one called? Meerkat came out first, Periscope seemed to gain a lot more traction. So took the top spot.
Yeah, I think besides for being kind of like, all right, well, this is the time of year for lists, right? Everyone has their top 10, top 100, things for 2015. Those are always fun. Yeah. But I think for action, like how this could be actionable is with the reconfiguration of the App Store, where the top rated apps aren't front and center, not top rated, top ranking, like, the top free, top grossing, top paid. They're not front and center anymore like they had been, especially noticeable in the games category, where you drill down, anything below, any category, any subcategory below games, and you get all these curated sections, and it's not just the top grossing and top rate, top ranking in the free and paid. So you get to see more of what Apple values, and I think that might be worth a study. Is okay. Here are the types of apps Apple thinks highly of, and then it gives you something to kind of like pitch Apple on when you write them that email saying, "Please feature me." Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. It's like the consistent thing that I notice is all of these apps they've innovated in some way. I mean, none of them are just something that people have copied and made it look prettier or whatever. They've all got a particular point of difference or innovative feature. Periscope's obvious, photo editing app Enlight, stock trading app Robinhood, productivity tool Workflow, and then apps like Fitmen Cook, which has got a heap of videos on cooking and stuff. But all of those are, they've got something that sets them apart from the rest of the apps in that category. Yeah.
Was Fitmen Cook, that was the one that Steve P. Young was involved in, right?
Yeah, we've mentioned it on the podcast before because it was an interesting one where an app developer partnered with, so Fitmen Cook, I can't remember the guy that runs the website, but he had a bunch of content and a bunch of followers and a really engaged audience, but he didn't have a mobile app. And so he partnered with a mobile app developer to build the Fitmen Cook app, and it was a big success. And, the developer didn't have any content, but he had app development skills. The guy who owned Fitmen Cook had the content, combined the two.
Mm-hmm.
Big success.
Yeah, and then they put together a team of marketers and PR guys and all this kind of stuff, and Steve was one of those guys. Steve P. Young, he changes the name of the podcast, it seems like, every couple months. App Masters, is that what it's called now?
Yeah, App Masters, I think, is the easiest way to find Steve, yeah.
Yeah. The discovery problem for finding podcasts is still very real. Like you can type in Steve Young and not find Steve Young's podcast. But yeah, App Masters and he's doing 3 a week, and he's always got guests on, so it's worth it. If that's new information, if you haven't heard of him, go check that out. But yeah, he was involved in that app. Okay, next item. Yeah.
Yeah, did you want to talk about the most downloaded? There's nothing. Well, the top free iPhone app downloaded for 2015 surprised me, actually. So I might mention that one. That's Trivia Crack. There you go.
Yeah, that is surprising. The only thing I could think of is the other ones in the list have some competition. Like Facebook Messenger was number 2, but Facebook Messenger has a lot of Messenger app competition, although they have a huge head start in that they basically split off the app from Facebook and said, hey, everyone download it. But the only thing I could think for Trivia Crack is the global appeal. Like that was one of the things that we've called out before is user generated content in multiple languages and multiple geos. But I guess a lot of these have a global presence. So yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. The global presence probably has a lot to do with it. All right, do you want to move on to the next one, the Deloitte report? I'll let you run with this one.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's another one of these reports, and you can check it out. You check out the show notes, and we'll have a link to it. I think you can search Deloitte Global Mobile Survey, and you can download like a 6 or 8 page PDF. But there were a couple of cool things in that report. And a couple of them are obvious, but it's always fun to look at data. So we'll just real quick run through a couple. Page 3, which is kind of like the beginning of the report, they talk about how they break things down by age group, and they talk about how frequently people are searching their phones or sorry, not searching, but interacting, using their smartphones. And 93% of smartphone owners look at their phones within the first 3 hours of waking up. And that number is 97% for 18 to 24-year-olds. Anything surprising there?
Not really. I would.
Yeah, not for me either.
Yeah, I mean, I fall into that category. In the 93% that look at your phone within 3 hours.
I mean, within 3 hours, why even have a smartphone if you're not using? Yeah, I mean, 3 minutes. I bet it's like 97% for that age group. Yep. Okay, so that wasn't surprising, but it was kind of interesting to see the data, and also that it wasn't super strongly skewed. It's not like 24-year-olds and younger are 95 and everyone else is 50. It's like everyone's over 90. All right. So if you're following along, page 4, the other one, this was kind of a confusing one, and I wanted to bring it up with you, Andrew, because I wasn't sure if I understood what it was saying. So page 4 of that report talks about basically how often, if at all, do you use your mobile phone while doing something else? And then it had a list of activities. And the way they talked about these activities is they said, if you answered hardly ever or more often than hardly ever, meaning everyone that didn't say never, basically, right?
Yeah, okay.
And there were activities like, I'm scrolling to it right now. The activities were like, while shopping. Okay, that makes sense. I understand that use case. Spending leisure time. And it has like a chair with a martini. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. Talking to friends and family. Rude, but okay. Watching TV. Totally get that. While eating at a restaurant. Oh, that was kind of depressing that it's 80%. But I mean, I guess I could answer hardly ever, because I hardly ever do, but I guess there'd be situations where I'd be eating at a restaurant, checking out the phone. But anyways.
So, for the listeners, just the reason we're going, is because it says 81% of people responded to using their phone while they're eating at a restaurant.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But anyway.
But remember, the barrier, what they're 81% people who said hardly ever or more often.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see watching a football game at a sports bar and interacting with my phone. So I guess it just depends on the use case. But here's what surprised me. Then it goes to using public transportation, which I would think is the most appropriate time to be using your smartphone. That should be 100%. And it was 54%. And it made me think, hold on, am I misunderstanding what they're measuring here?
No, I don't know. I'm reading it the same way, but it makes no sense. Like, using public transport, anyone who's been on public transport only had to look around and see that 9 out of 10 people would be using their phone. Wow. Yeah. All right.
I don't know what that is. The only thing I could think of was that since there's not Wi-Fi on public transportation, that they don't want to use their data or something. I don't know. We don't have public transportation in California, so I mean we do, but it's not like most countries. Okay, so I thought that was interesting. Basically, the second screen narrative, right, where you're watching TV, but you're interacting with something else on your smartphone. It could be related to what you're watching on TV. It could not be, but it's prevalent. It's super prevalent, and I thought that was worth hitting real quick. And then,
with the TV one, there was some more interesting data. I think it actually showed how many people said they were almost always or very often using their phone while watching TV, which is a lot more specific, and that didn't surprise me. So 42% of 25 to 34-year-olds, 38% of 18 to 24-year-olds. So, a third to half of all people say that they're almost always or very often using their phone while watching TV.
Yeah. In fact, in aggregate, with every age group, 60%. Crazy, right?
Yeah. It's big, but I do it. So
yeah,
I'm not super surprised.
Me too. Yeah. Okay, and then there were some other things, but we got a lot to hit, so I'll just go over this one real quick. Mobile payments, and that's something that's super interesting for a bunch of reasons for pretty much anyone involved in mobile and mobile marketing and apps and all that stuff. As mobile, it's already kind of like the center of our digital universe, even though ad revenues are slow to respond to it and all these kinds of things. Like, it's not like everyone's adopted a mobile first marketing perspective, but the more things like mobile payments and mobile wallets move to the forefront, the more it kind of hammers the point home that the smartphone is like the center. Or it already is the center, it's just taking over little different parts of our lives. And so the data that was in this report showed that in 2014, 5% of people had reported ever making an in-store payment using their device. And in 2015, they broke it into daily, weekly, less than once a week, and have used it ever. And adding all those up was 18%. So basically, the amount of people that reported, using in-store payments, their device for in-store payments, went up 300%. 3.5x more than last year. So.
Yeah, and the reason for that is just the rollout of technology that allows it, basically.
Yeah, I think so too.
Apple Pay, Google, whatever they call it, Google Wallet, Google something. And I think, so it's been common here in Australia for a while, but I don't think it's been as common in the US. But contactless payments with our credit cards. So all our credit cards a long time ago switched to chips rather than the magnetic stripe. And they also allowed for contactless payment. So pretty much everywhere you go now here, and it has been like this for a while, you don't have to insert or swipe your credit card. You just tap it on the terminal. And all those terminals not automatically, but the bank just has to switch it on. You can use Apple Pay and Google Pay and all those things with your phone. And I think you guys are seeing more of that now too, which probably means that which is probably behind the rise in people using it.
Yeah. We're still just moving to, like, there's still this awkward thing where you hand them your card and do you swipe it or do you insert it into the bottom of the box? And I mean, there's all these little weird things. And I think there was an effort to get behind like dongles where you'd have your Chase card dongle and you'd like swipe it. But,
stupid.
I mean, San Diego, it's not like it's a small place. So if I'm not seeing it in San Diego, then I don't know where it'd be happening. But I think it's just going to leapfrog, like it's going to leapfrog that step that Australia took. Not leapfrog Australia, but like catch up to Australia by leapfrogging that middle step, which is having your cards do that. Now it's just going to be your smartphone.
Yeah.
Which is a good segue to another news item. Not a lot to talk about here, just that Walmart is introducing a mobile payments platform for purchasing in their stores, which I don't really understand, and I'm curious your thoughts, but that's the news item.
Well, it's the same thing as Apple Pay or Google's offering. Google Pay, we'll call it, because I don't know the real name, but it's just inside their app. You open the app, you register a credit card, basically, and then when you're in the store, you open up the Walmart app, when you're at the checkout, you scan a QR code comes up on the checkout when you're doing the self or when you're checking out. You open the Walmart app, point the camera at the QR code, and that links up your payment information to the cart, to the checkout, and then it automatically pays. So that's it.
So how does Walmart benefit? What's in it for Walmart to do that?
Well, it makes it easier for consumers to pay, gets them back in the app. So people put their credit card information into the app because they want to pay in store, but then that also is going to let them make purchases easier online through the app as well, I'm guessing. So that'd be one reason.
Okay.
Maybe it's because it avoids fees as well. If they use Apple Pay or Google Pay, they probably pay, I'm assuming they'd pay a merchant fee to Apple every time somebody used Apple Pay or whatever. Don't know.
You get where I'm going with that. Why wouldn't they piggyback on
existing systems?
Yeah, and an existing system that's going to have way more legs. Like, why would you want? I don't get the benefit. I get the benefit of having an app. I don't get the benefit of having your own payments platform, even for a company the size of Walmart. Why wouldn't you want to use the platforms that everyone's going to use, which are based on the device? Or am I ahead of it? Is it not guaranteed that it's going to be Apple Pay and Google Wallet, and there's still some mobile platform, mobile currency thing happening?
Well, I think that's probably the big thing is they're going to have millions of people's credit card information on file that they would never have had before, ready to make instant payments, like in the app or in an email or whatever. Like think about Amazon one-click payments.
Right. But they could get the same thing by using Apple Pay. That's what I'm getting at. How is that any different than what Amazon's got?
Well, Apple Pay, though, isn't linked up inside the Walmart app. Apple Pay is the in-store, touch your phone, make a payment. This way, the credit cards are, within the Walmart ecosystem. They can tie that up to their online account, make purchases online as well as offline and blah, blah, blah.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
That's my guess, But.
Yeah, and if it's as simple as linking your bank account to the platform, from an onboarding perspective, then it doesn't seem like that's such a barrier. Like no one's going to care. It's like having, like when we introduced the Stripe payments, and we were saying you probably already have a Stripe account, you don't know it because so many websites use Stripe. It's like that. But okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And maybe there's a data play there too. Maybe by having access to the credit card information, they get some other data along with it. Who knows? But okay, that was more of just a news item and just another kind of reinforcement of everyone's adopting mobile and mobile payments.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's that thing too of, we've talked about this 1,000 times, and just touch on it quickly before we move on. But like we've talked about the value of a customer when they hit your website compared to when they download your mobile app. And we've seen 1,000 times that the value of a customer goes up dramatically if they use your mobile app instead of just visiting your mobile website or your normal website. So
right.
if Walmart is saying, hey, you can check out way quicker, way faster if you download our app and use our new Walmart payment service, then they're probably bringing more customers into that app, increasing the average LTV and all that sort of stuff as well.
All right. Yeah, an excuse a reason for someone to download the app. That makes sense.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, and if that's really one of the big reasons, then that's it's another huge endorsement for apps and not just supporting mobile or the power of apps.
Yeah, exactly. And all these people have got the Walmart app. Then I think they said 22 million already active users of Walmart app. You get even more people with the app. Walmart might bring in beacon technology. They might start pinging you when you walk past certain items in the store and saying, "Hey, buy this." They would already be leveraging push notifications. So all these new people that get the app are getting hit with push notifications and all that stuff that we've covered 1,000 times.
Yeah. If you're new to the podcast, just go back and listen to 150 episodes. No biggie.
Yeah. And do it on public transport because only 50% of people apparently use their phone there. So
yeah. All right, where do you want to go now?
unhappy with the retail experience, I guess it's an okay segue into that.
It actually is funny how well these things segue. Like we talked about the Deloitte report, and then about how much, how much the growth was in people adopting mobile payments, and we talked about Walmart with mobile payments, and then we talk about, according to, it was a little confusing who reported this data. I was trying to get to the actual source of the data, but Eptica is a reporting agency, and Adotas, do you know who they are?
Adotas. No, like but I've heard of them before. I've read their stuff before. Like
a news marketing type entity. They were sharing a report talking about, even while consumers are in the store, they're buying via their smartphone. And it kind of helps explain how, the data we shared last week from IBM about Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and how much growth in mobile spending there was and traffic there was. I mean, it was mostly mobile traffic, but it's almost like when people say, are you watching TV or on your device? It's like, no, you're doing both. You could be in the store and visiting a website on your device. And apparently a lot of people were, because of the top 500 global retailers that these guys surveyed. 23% of their purchases were occurring via mobile. Is that how you're reading this? Were occurring while they're in the store, right?
Well, yeah. I think I'm reading it the same way. So 23% went and bought from the website of the retailer they're actually standing in. So someone's standing in, I don't know, Walmart.
Yeah, Walmart.
Went to their website on their phone and bought the product instead of picking it up and walking out the front door with it.
Yeah.
That's freaking weird. And then 1/5, so 20% of people went online and bought from a rival. So they were in Walmart and they went online and they bought from Costco or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And the way this article was framed was that people are unhappy with the holiday retail experience. They don't like the retail experience. So even though they're in the store, they're going mobile and buying it that way instead. But,
the Eptica report was the report they were citing in this article. And so that was mostly about the unhappiness with communication channels. They were basically saying, hey, email and website and phone and social channels, Facebook and Twitter were the ones they measured, I think. How happy or unhappy were consumers with these various aspects of the retail experience. And basically everyone was unhappy. I mean, everyone's unhappy, period, with everything. They were unhappy with the website. They were unhappy with the mobile. They were unhappy with the in-store experience, whatever. So at that point, you kind of have to say, oh, well, okay, everyone's just unhappy with everything. But the only use case I understand from this, with the 23 bought from the website, the way you frame it is perfect. They could pick it up and walk out the door with it, but instead they purchased it over their mobile device. The only group I sympathize with or understand is the 20% that purchased it elsewhere. Like they're in Walmart and they're like, oh, Target's got it cheaper, or Walmart's out of stock, so Target can deliver it. They have it, they'll deliver it tomorrow, or Amazon. That makes sense. But when it's right in front of you and there's no price difference, it's the same retailer. I don't understand.
I don't get it. The only way I can make sense of it is if it's out of stock and they go, crap, they don't have it here, I'll go online and get it delivered.
Right.
But that 23%, you can't tell me that 23% of people are looking for a specific item, it's out of stock, so they go online and buy it that way. I don't know.
That sounds like serious stocking issues for these retailers. So anyways.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think, surely that's not happening.
That's good. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. What's next?
All right. So the next one was about mobile advertising overtaking desktop in 2018. So basically it's just saying that, when 2018 comes around, they're expecting, so this article was from Mobile Advertising Watch, but the report that they pulled the data from was by Zenith Optimedia. Anyway, so by 2018, they're saying mobile advertising will overtake desktop and account for 50.2% of all internet advertising. No surprise. I mean, but it's good to see an actual date put behind it as well.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, because I think we've seen this data in different ways. And something that we talk about, I don't know, every 6 months or so is the Mary Meeker report that talks about the gap between usage, time spent in a platform and the amount spent trying to reach people using that platform. And it's always like print and radio have low engagement and low usage or consumption time spent. And the dollars spent trying to reach those people are way overweighted based on how many people are using that medium or platform. Whereas internet is about even, TV is about even, and digital's or mobile's way underrepresented. And that gap is like something like $60 billion in the US alone, which aligns pretty well with this report being, 120 billion globally. So we've been aware of this gap for some time, and it makes sense. And a lot of what you and I are doing outside of the podcast looks at, mobile first marketing and things like what marketing looks like when you're targeting mobile users. It's different, but I guess one of the questions I was going to ask you was how is this really that big of if everything moves to mobile? It doesn't say mobile apps, although right now a lot of that usage is in mobile apps. But is that the thing that makes it super different? Is that the advertising gets pushed to an app instead of a website?
To be honest, I'd be taking a guess to answer, but I would say, yeah, that's probably what makes the big difference. There's probably that, and there's probably to a degree other mobile platforms. Well, they're apps, but there's kind of two different ways ads are shown in apps, right? If you think of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, ads are shown in your feed all the time.
Like native ads.
But they're kind of native. They're just in that Facebook feed. The advertiser can choose whether they want it to appear in the mobile feed or on your desktop Facebook feed or whatever. And then you've got your other mobile apps where you've got the whole, you're using the app and then a pop-up comes up and shows an ad and whatever. And I think this is a combination of both. It's saying anything that appears on mobile, inside an app. I don't know if probably is including the mobile web as well. But,
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I guess no one would be saying, I don't think, oh my gosh, advertising's moving from desktop to laptop.
No.
Like no one thinks of it like that, but because mobile
laptops included in desktop these days.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's my point is like from the advertiser's perspective, the guy with the budget, how is it really that different? And I guess the difference is it's probably native for the most part. And, it's unrelated, but programmatic, right? So you set your boundaries and what you're targeting, and it kind of just finds inventory for you. But yeah, I guess the question was, what's so different about it from the person with the money for the mobile versus desktop? And it's just the size, the format, the size of it, right?
Well, it's the size, the format, and I think it's probably the platform as well. So, if they're moving from desktop, they're probably doing things like Google ads and all that sort of stuff. If they're moving to mobile, then they're probably going to start moving into more social media advertising, like those platforms that I said. At the moment, it's things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Snapchat is becoming big. And I think as we see more of those social platforms come online and start to monetize through ads, then that's a different channel for advertisers as well.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, maybe that's it. Just the use case of people on mobile is different than desktop, so it changes who and how you're advertising. Yeah, I mean, it's a great deal for us. We've been on top of this for years saying, hey, we're in a good position being mobile app publishers because it means we have inventory that's in demand, increasingly in demand. And that continues to be the trend. Yeah, and based on the Facebook Audience Network experience I'm having with some of my apps, it's like, whoa, holy smokes, it's absolutely more valuable than it was 2 years ago. Yep,
that's great. All right, hey, just had someone else join, Evangelos. Thanks for sharing too. We've got one more news article to cover before we wrap up. So, do you want to introduce this one, Chris?
Yeah, except I haven't really had a chance to read it. But basically, Apple TV apps are making the best Apple TV app, the most popular Apple TV apps are making $100 a day, which is not very much money.
That's right. So that's pretty much the story. When you compare that to the Apple App Store, where the top apps over there, to the iOS App Store, sorry, the top apps over there, you're talking hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars a day. Then you look over at Apple TV, a day, yeah. Then you look at Apple TV and the top apps are making $100 a day.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, right? One is it's not like people who had the old Apple TV can suddenly just update their software and they have Apple TV. So it's a brand new thing, almost like the watch. So there's not like this large install base. And even if all the old Apple TVs could upgrade, it's not like Apple TV had cornered the market from TiVo and DVRs and, like cable boxes. It's just, they haven't, it didn't replace everything like smartphones did. So the jury's still out if Apple TV, what do we call those things? What do we call?
What do you mean?
What do we call an Apple TV or a Chrome TV or?
I don't know. I would say they're kind of like a DVR, but they're not a DVR.
And it's not a smart TV because that's already taken, right? Yeah. Internet connected TV, but whatever those things are called, right?
Whatever it is.
It's not sure if that's going to be what everyone moves to. Like, are people going to move to that? Is that whatever is that going to be in everyone's living room? Like everyone has a smartphone? We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we don't know. But I think part of that too, and this article sort of dives into it, is that Apple didn't really put much effort into doing pre-launch marketing or even launch marketing for this either. It was kind of just like, hey, here's a new Apple TV. They haven't gone out and actively educated the general public that this is a new Apple TV, and if you've currently got one, it doesn't have the App Store like this new one. You need to update. This is why you should update. Blah blah blah. They just kind of went, oh yeah, PS new Apple TV.
Yeah, I mean the presentation was cool, but I don't know that I've seen.
But what presentation?
The presentation when they released it.
Yeah, but that was like a fairly techie.
Yeah, for sure.
Thing.
Yeah.
It was aimed at developers. There was nothing really.
My mom doesn't know about the Apple TV.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, right. Like the average person doesn't know and doesn't give a shit, and that's because Apple hasn't really gone out like they do with most of their. All their products are consumer products, but usually they go out and really, 1,000 songs in your pocket. They know how to tell people.
Yeah. They tell a good story.
This is what you want. Yeah, and they haven't bothered. They kind of went, hey, developers, this is cool because you can do whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually a decent segue to the item that I couldn't find a post for, but Branch, in fact, I'm wearing a Branch sweatshirt. So if you sign up for Branch and then you recommend some people, you get a sweatshirt in the mail. So that happened. I'm wearing the Branch sweatshirt right now. And, so they're deep linking, app linking company or platform, and there's a lot of use cases why you would want to use deep linking. The easiest one to think about is a user onboarding experience where you could send people directly to a specific spot in your app and give them a specific experience. Other obvious ones are you could be talking about a taco recipe and then it goes directly to whether they're coming from Facebook or Twitter or into Android or into Apple, it routes them the right way into a specific space or piece of content in the app. And there's a bunch of competing platforms and all this stuff or protocols, I guess. App Links is another one. Twitter has Twitter cards. Google calls them app links too, I think, which is confusing because that's what Facebook calls them, but they're different. Apple was using something called URIs, which are basically like URLs, but for apps. And they are still supporting it, but the functionality's changed a little bit in the latest release, which I think is 9.02. Maybe it's 9.2, but whatever the latest iOS version is.
It's 9.2, so we probably should have talked about that as well. It came out yesterday, but just bug fixes and things mainly.
Yeah. And okay, so anyways, they're adopting 100% universal links. So it's just a note, but I think this space is starting to heat up, and I don't know. There's all sort applinks.org is worth checking out, and branch.io is worth checking out for a primer on this. But if you think ASO and SEO and all those things are important for app success, then you absolutely need to be on top of this deep linking, app linking stuff, because basically it allows you to index your in-app content, both for people who have your app installed, which is insane help for engagement and retention, but then also for people who don't have your app installed, who are using Spotlight or Siri or Safari or Chrome. I mean, Google's doing the same thing. This is just Apple announcement or change. That's why it's kind of focused on Apple right now. But yeah, this is a big deal. It's the difference between having one page of your website indexed and everything on your website indexed. That's what's happening with deep linking and app linking. So worth checking out, and just kind of a change that I think makes it easier to work within Apple's, work with Apple on this, because URI's had some problems and universal links don't have the same problem.
Yep. That's a good summary.
Okay.
Cool. So that's all we've got for the news. We've got a question in the chat. So Evangelos was asking us, what's the average cost and dev time for a simple game app? That's a tough one, because everyone's definition of simple is a little bit different, and
I would say
how you do it.
Yeah, I would say go to Chupa Mobile or Code Canyon or Blue Cloud Solutions. Does Carter still sell his stuff?
No, I don't think he does. It depends how you do it. That's if you want a source code, you can do it for $100 plus, maybe 1,000 for graphics and small changes. But I'd say the other way, if you did it, if you went from scratch, what do you reckon? $3,000 to $5,000?
Yeah, but it's such a hard thing to say because if you or I were doing it from scratch, we could probably figure out how to do it for $3,000 to $5,000. Shoot, we could get 10 apps out of it for $3,000 to $5,000, right? But for someone who's never built an app before, I mean, my first app cost me $3,000 and it sucked.
Yep.
And
that's because you're not as good at defining requirements. You're not as good at managing developers. You don't know where to hire and find good quality, low cost developers and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah. And project management and all that stuff it adds up.
And you will get the wool pulled over your eyes. I don't know if you use that saying. But when you're getting started, developers, designers will say things to you, oh, you need this and it's going to take me 20 hours and blah, blah, blah. And if you don't know any better and you've never built an app, then that's going to cost money. Or I think we're at a stage now where we can say, no, adding that SDK doesn't take 20 hours. It takes 20 minutes. And then to go find another developer.
What's that website how much does it cost to make an app.com or something?
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about that? Yeah. And it's a cool web app where basically you answer 8 questions and it gives you an idea. But what's helpful about it is it lets you kind of get some insight to what the expensive parts of building an app are. Does it have to sync with a database? Does it have a partner web app? Are you selling things in the app? All these kinds of things. So that's probably a good place to start. I think it's
how much to make an app.com.
Bam. Yeah.
I'll just put it in the chat box too. But you answer some questions, it gets to the end and gives you a rough, price.
It's Western managed. It's Western development with a managed project like an agency. So it's going to be, the result's going to be $50,000, but it won't be that much if you were to manage it yourself. But it is a ballpark. It does give you a sense for what that would cost.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it gives you a sense as to how much extra cost certain features will add. So, if you add this feature and it jumps by, $10,000, then that's something that's reasonably complex and you can expect it to add a significant amount to your cost base.
Yep.
Yeah, this is good. I like. We should do this more often. Have a little Q&A at the end. If people have questions, they can come in and we can quickly answer a few questions.
Yeah, let me see if I can tackle. We got another one. Is there any CMS, content management system, to install on sites to build apps without coding? So the idea being, how do I get a mobile app if I have a current WordPress site? How do I get my WordPress blog in a mobile app, right? Yep. And there is a plugin. I think it's free even. I think it's called WP Touch, like WordPress Touch. Yeah, it's WP Touch, I think, and you plug it in, and it basically turns your website into. I take it back. I don't think it makes an app. I think it makes it responsive.
Yeah, I think you're right. So there are solutions like this. Chris mentioned before, like if you look at CodeCanyon.com, they sell a bunch of source codes, like a bunch of app templates. That's another way to describe a source code. And a lot of those are just, you can buy it for $20. All you need to do is put the details of your particular site so you can get a developer. It should be really cheap because there's like a couple hours work max in this. And, assuming that you're paying $20 an hour for an outsourced offshore developer, should be pretty cheap. They just need to put in the details of your website, the XML feed from your website, and then it'll pull it into the app and you're done.
Yeah, that's a good call. In fact, for the guys listening and asking those questions, if that's something you're interested in, then why don't we send them over to Heim? I mean, Heim has guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's where I got the $20 an hour figure from.
Okay, good. What's his website? B7Dev. Is that his new website?
Yeah, b7dev.com. So, Heim's he owns an offshore development agency, and he's got pre-screened developers that he works with that are full time on his team. You get a project manager as well with all your stuff, which is incredible for $20 to $25 an hour. And they've got everything. So they got programmers, graphic designers, front end, back end, whatever you need, under the one roof. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, just to make sure we set expectations, like I wouldn't expect for $20 to $25 an hour to get like daily reports and weekly, like this whole dialed in wireframe. Like you got to do the heavy lifting. You're basically hiring a project manager and kind of like these devs who have been pre-screened. So it saves you that's where I go to do all my stuff now. Like Heim and I just do everything on that.
Yeah. Well, it takes that risk away that you get with Elance and Odesk because you got to screen them yourself.
Right. But he's not trying to compete with full-blown agencies who are going to do all the wireframing and everything for you and make all these like suggestions for what to do with your app. You're going to have to be the guy who has the vision and is very clear about what you want, and then they go do it. But both of us can tell you that to be able to eliminate the risk of and just the pain of finding people and trying to hire them and interviewing people on Odesk to get the exact same thing that you'd be getting with Heim and B7Dev. I've been doing this, 3 years now, and I'm working with Heim still, right? So if that gives you an indication of kind of what I think is valuable. This wasn't supposed to be a Heim commercial, but I think
he's not a sponsor. But
yeah, when people say, "Hey, I've got an app idea, and who can help me execute it?" and they're not looking to spend $50,000, then I think that's a really good option that people should know about.
And look, just on top of that, to put a dollar figure around what we're talking about here, well, like we said, Heim's $20 to $25 an hour. In most cases. If you go to a freelance site like Odesk or Elance, you might save $5 an hour finding a dev there, but the headaches that come with that, especially when you're inexperienced, you got to question whether it's worth saving $5 an hour.
How much can you get a dev for on Upwork? It's called Upwork, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like it might be $15 to $20.
Yeah, right.
At best, that's what I'm saying. You're saving $5 an hour, but you got to go through this whole vetting process, and you're going to have to sack some developers and find new ones because they weren't what you expected, and blah blah blah. So
I've lost tens of thousands of dollars doing that the wrong way because one, I didn't know what I was doing. and this was like on my 5th app, I messed up that badly. So it's so another question just came in, and then we'll kind of finish it up because we're at 47 minutes already. Chris, what is your process you go through when you select a developer? Did I read that pretty well?
Nailed it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, kind of what we were just talking about. I'm to the point now where I kind of have a team that I'm comfortable with, and I don't feel like I need to go out and find new developers. In fact, the next like if I were to just hire a developer, I don't think I would. I think I would just continue to be agile like I am now. I wouldn't go through that process is what I'm saying. I would go and, I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to not give you other options, but I would call Heim. And if Heim and B7 Dev work for you, then great. If they don't, then I would go through Upwork and do the whole Easter egg where you say, okay, respond, but put this in the subject line. Because otherwise you're just going to get templated responses. I mean, that's a whole other, we probably had 5 different episodes, like complete full episodes talking about how to hire a developer and how to hire a team and how to communicate with a developer. It's not an insignificant thing to learn.
You know what I'd do second? So I agree. I'd go to a team like Himes at B7 Dev and as a first option. But if that wasn't an option for some reason, or if I was looking for something else, I would look for recommendations from someone else. I'd reach out to my network. I'd talk to people I knew who've hired developers, who worked with developers, and I'd say, give me a name. Yep. Give me a recommendation.
Yep.
That's the next best way to find someone who you know is going to be good.
And Upwork is great in that they have star ratings and all that stuff. But, there's just so many cultural differences. I mean, there's just so many differences between all the different things and what their skill set is and what you're looking to do and how technical you are and how technical they are. And are you on Android? Well, they only know iOS. And then they're saying native and you're saying, okay, what about Cocos? And then they're saying Unity. And then you're saying, what about, Facebook? And it's like, at some point it just helps to what worked for someone else, like just model after what they did and do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And look, even for those people out there who are like, well, I don't know many people in the industry, because, that's completely understandable if you're just getting started. Just join Facebook groups. Like there's a bunch of mobile app development, marketing Facebook groups out there. Join a couple, post a thing. Anyone recommend a good developer.
Yeah,
and
that's a great idea.
You'll get some answers there too. So
it's funny how much our answers have changed since 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago, I would have talked all about Upwork at the time, Elance. Or what was the other one?
Odesk,
Odesk,
then they merged and became Upwork. And freelancer.com is another one too.
Yeah. But now I just, now I don't do that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. For you guys who are listening on the podcast, if you stuck with us the whole 50 minutes, maybe some of this was new information for you. I don't know.
Yep.
But really appreciate checking in, and we will catch you guys. This is Thursday at 4:00 Pacific. It's not anymore, but it was when we started. And we're here on blab.im every Thursday at 4 Pacific. So if you want to join us live and ask us some questions, we'd love to hear from you. Other than that, we'll talk to you guys on the next App Business podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.